Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Inget Zoom Series 29. Today, our guest is Kristina Smith. Kristina Smith is a teacher and a teacher trainer working mainly with Bell English. She writes and runs online teacher training courses and directs other projects, mostly recently, the Prelim projects in Brazil and Serbia. She is now in Cambridge, UK, but lived and worked for almost 30 years in Turkey. Right now, she's missing drinking Turkish coffee with her friends here. And believe me when I say this, Kristina, your friends in Turkey miss you and having Turkish coffee with you as well. Her session title today is The Best and the Rest. What will you take forward from online learning? Thank you very much, Kristina, for accepting to be our guest. And I know that we're going to benefit from this session a lot. The screen is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's really an honor to be asked to come here and to give a presentation. And it's lovely to see so many people I know and some people I don't know, but that's all fine. You'll have plenty of opportunities to connect with me by email or Facebook if you're the person who uses that kind of thing later on if you want to, okay? Yes, it's true. I lived in Turkey for many, many years. Türkçe konuşabilirim ama konuşmayacağım. Çünkü yani we are English teachers and there are people here who do not speak Turkish. Okay, just so you know. Basically, I'll put my PowerPoint up in a moment. I always think it's nice so we can kind of all see each other. Later on, there will be activities, well, at least one activity in breakout rooms and opportunities to communicate with me with the chat. Aydan Hoca is going to be watching the chat and making a list of questions, and she will create spaces in the sessions for you to ask questions. If something is really a burning issue or some problem you have to tell us, you really have to, then do unmute yourselves. But we may keep your contributions a little short if it's in the middle of the session, because then, you know, we have to respect the time too. At the bottom of if you're using a laptop, at the bottom of a Zoom screen, there's a reactions button. And there's a sort of long, thin one that says raise hand. I don't know if you're using that or if you're teaching directly with Zoom. When you put the raise hand thing up, that little hand pops up. I've just done it. And that's actually really useful for me because if there's like 2 or 3 screens of people in a Zoom call, I can't watch you all, okay? But if you do put that hand up and you have to go back and take it down again afterwards, you will pop up to the top of the list of participants. And I will be able to see you, and Aydan Hoca will see you. We will know that you have a burning question you want to ask. Does that make sense? You're welcome to, if you're not used to it, you're welcome to go and have a look and click on the lower raise hand, lower hand thing just to try it out once. But it's very useful. I use it with large groups because I can't always, thank you, Kubra. I can't always follow everybody otherwise. Handan Hanım, if you use the thumbs up, you will not pop up to the top of the list. It's the other one underneath that where there's a long gray bar that says raise hand. If you want to try that one, yes, that's right. Thank you very much. Now you see it. And the fun thing is you have to take it away again afterwards. Yeah, if you forget, I can take it away. That's great. Thanks. Just to practice that, that's quite a useful kind of classroom management thing you might need to do yourself if you have a big class on Zoom. Is anyone else using that in the room? Yeah, some people are. Yeah, okay, that's great. Super. So today, basically, well, it's been a really, really difficult year. Thank you, Julia. It's been a really difficult year, and what can I say? I don't want to talk about it, but I do want to say that, you know, it's coming up to the summer holiday for us in the Northern Hemisphere, and I'm beginning to think a little bit about what I have learned and the things that I need to work on, because there's no end being a teacher. We always have to learn new things. And I guess I've been reflecting on what I really want to focus on from teaching, and what I want to take forward into the year ahead. And that's really where this presentation has come from. So I'm going to share my screen. And of course, get us kind of started. All right. So this is also an opportunity for you to stop and think about what you have learned in the last year about teaching, especially online teaching. Because I work a lot online. I've been involved with online teaching since 2008. I started giving courses in Moodle and writing courses, moderating courses. So I've been doing this for a long time. But still, you know, that world is changing very rapidly, and I am learning loads and loads of things. So there are some things which have kind of stuck with me, I guess, from this year that I want to work on and I want to take forward. These are some of the things I'm keeping. All right, so a bit more focus on autonomy, more than I had in the past. Much more focus on mobile learning than I ever had when I had face-to-face classes. And I'm really recognizing just how important the whole idea of collaboration really is. Collaboration between the students, as well as between the teacher and the students. So collaborative kinds of activities, projects, and exercises. I want to start really just by talking about autonomy a little bit. And of course, we're all familiar with learner autonomy, right? You know, it's about taking control of our own learning. That might be me taking control of my learning when I work independently, or it might be when I'm choosing to work collaboratively with other people. But I'm in charge of myself and I take responsibility for my learning. So we think that this is an important part of language learning. However, it's not something that many students come to the classroom with already, in my experience. It's something that the teacher really has to work on. Students can be very resistant to the idea of learner autonomy because they think that it's a teacher's job to give them everything, you know, and do everything for them. The reality is I can't make anybody learn anything. I can only create conditions where it is easier for somebody to teach themselves something. That's really what it's all about. If our students are used to being spoon-fed, and many of my students have that background, they find it a little bit strange that I want them to do something for themselves. So I kind of believe that the teacher is the person who has to facilitate this process of developing an understanding of what autonomy is and why it's important and how you do it. So we need to make that a big part of our lessons, modeling activities, and maybe celebrating the successes as we go on, as we move forward, really recognizing when students are taking steps in that direction. So one of the things we're going to be looking at, well, I'm going to summarize in a sense. If I had to summarize what autonomy is, for me, it's about developing personal strategies that work for me. May not work for you, but they work for me. And it's about behaving with intention. So I have a plan, I have a goal, I have a reason for doing what I'm doing to be able to learn with this method that I have picked. I'm not just randomly doing something or just doing something because that's what I did in high school. If you're working with university students, okay? But understanding what you're doing and doing it deliberately with intention. And that's a phrase that I think is really important for us as teachers to think about and for the learners to grasp, okay? Aidan Hoja has some wonderful seminars, which are on the YouTube channel already. You've probably seen them about 21st century skills. And she talks about exploration, curiosity, inquisitiveness, adaptability. All these things are, of course, features of autonomy. Yeah? So the activities and things which are discussed in those 3 videos are really relevant to what we're talking about today as well. Now, we're going to be moving on to be looking at an activity. All right. And I'm going to show you a web page. I wonder if you're already using it, though. It's lingro.com. I'm going to share my screen. I think this is a really interesting web page. Let me see if I can set this up properly. Give me one moment. Now, I believe you are seeing the Lingro screen, right? Correct? So in this website, I can put the URL of some online place, a blog or a newspaper or an ebook, maybe if it's on a web page. I'm a big fan of this website called The Conversation. It's a kind of newspaper, so it's suitable for EAP type students, more advanced high school students. You could simplify some of the texts, and there are some texts for children on that website. I'm a real fan of it because I can use it without having to worry about copyright. You see, if I go to something like Time Magazine or The Guardian, well, maybe The Guardian wouldn't make a fuss, but these kind of newspapers, the articles there are actually copyright protected. So once you start taking the articles and photocopying them and handing them out to students, it's a bit of a problem, right? But the conversation, all of their stuff is freely accessible for you to use as a teacher. And I think that's fantastic. So we can teach students about copyright at the same time. There is a UK version, Australia, Africa, America. There are different versions of this newspaper. It's one of the things I look at almost every day. It's really, really interesting. So what you do is, if I want to improve my English, or it could have been French, for example, I could have picked a French website, but I'll use English. I'm trying to learn English. I pick my web page and I choose my dictionary. Okay. And there are different languages here. So you could use it if you're an English speaker to learn Portuguese. Wow. I could work with a Russian text and get the English meanings of the words, but I'm going to stick to an English dictionary. When I click on this, the website is going to load the page. It will take a moment. There's a lot of stuff at the top of that newspaper page. I have to scroll down to get the actual article. Okay, there's a disclosure statement. Here we go. An article about developmental language disorder. I want to read this article. I'm interested in special needs. There are words that I don't know. Maybe I don't know what a pathology is. If I click on the word pathology, I get a pop-up window with the meaning of the word. Are you all seeing that? Yes, thank you. Just checking to make sure that Zoom is sharing exactly what I wanted to share. Okay, I think that's really interesting. If I don't know what tease is, that might be harder to figure out. Not a particularly good definition, perhaps. Particular. I can't remember what that word is, so I look it up. All right. So when I load a web page into this dictionary, it will give me the meanings, the dictionary meanings of the words. I think that's really cool. Is that something that some of your students could use, I wonder? Yeah, I won't show you all about it, but if you're logged in, and it's a free website, so it's very basic because it's free, doesn't do an awful lot of stuff, it kind of just does this. This website will save the words that you've looked up, you've clicked on a list, and you can study your word list later on. And you can save word lists. So you can make a word list for each article that you have read, for example, and then you could go back and study it. And I think that's very interesting. I'm just going to take us back to the PowerPoint in one moment. I must find it. Hold on. I will stop sharing this for a second and I will make sure I'm in the right place with that. Okay. Excuse me. I have so many tabs open today. Just a second, I'm just getting, yeah. Excuse me for not making this perfect at the beginning. I will make it full screen from here. Oh, give me 1 second. And it's not choosing to let me share what I wanted to share. Give me a second to pull this up. Okay. Hi, Zoom. 1 second. Here we go. Yeah. So my point would be that that is a website that I can use on my own to improve my language skills. If I'm an English language learner, I can read websites more comfortably if I use this site. Yeah. So what I've done is created a little activity. And I'm going to give you the link in the chat in a moment to see it. I used Google Forms and I ask students to look at the website. I mean, I show them the website in class or on the screen. They go to Google Forms and they evaluate that site. So for example, these are the comments and questions that they can tick. So how can using this website help me with my English? And the students can pick the things that they think would be helpful about Lingua for them. And because it's a Google form, I can see the answers later. If you were using Lingua, I wonder what you would use it for. Having decided what they would use it for, I give them a chance to set some goals. They can pick a goal, or they can write their own goal in Google Forms if they decide they want to use that particular website, right? And then I ask them to find a website or an app or something that they can use that would help them learn English. And I get them to write a list of the things that you can do to learn English using that website or that app, like my example. And I get them to write 1 or 2 example goals, because I find our students are not good at setting goals. They don't really know what that is. What is a SMART goal? Yeah, something that's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable. So it shouldn't be, I'm going to look up every unknown word on Lingua and write them in my vocabulary journal, because that's never going to happen, right? But if you say, I'm going to spend 20 minutes twice a week on Lingua, or I'm going to read 2 paragraphs of an article on Lingua twice a week, I'm going to pick something from the news. That's achievable, right? I think we have to actually teach our students how to do these kinds of things, if that makes sense. I'm just going to go and get the link. So you can see it. And I'm going to pop it in the chat. And I hope I've done this right. Could you try clicking on that link if you're on a laptop? Yes. If you want to try just taking a moment and filling in the form, you're very welcome to. It only takes a moment. It's only got a couple of questions. And it's just for fun. Has everyone got that? Could you check again? I may have made a mistake with the... Okay, good. Sorry. Give you 2 or 3 minutes to have a look and see how it works. Yes. I'm thinking that most of you probably use Google Forms. Is that correct? Yeah, so you know you can see the answers on the form. And as a teacher, I will be able to see which kinds of goals students think are appropriate or what uses they think are appropriate for that website or that app. So I'm raising awareness of the fact that they can do something for themselves, and I can get the students to set a little tiny mini goal. Now, I might decide just to do that with one website with my class for 1 week and say for 1 week, we're going to try this. And I want everyone to pick one little tiny goal between now and whatever it is, next Wednesday. Okay, I might be very specific. I might give them 3 different websites or 2 websites, 2 articles, knowing my class. Okay, an article about this, an article about that. Pick one of the articles, go to put it into Lingro, choose the English dictionary, read your article, read the first 2 paragraphs of your article. And then I'm going to ask you how that was next week. That's your homework. Okay, so they pick just something small. And once they've tried Lingro, then they can maybe set themselves a larger goal in the following week. And step by step, I can help them. Thank you. Insert learning. Yes. My reason for wanting to, I know it's nice to have a website that evaluates the websites, but I actually want the students to evaluate the websites, because that's the whole process for them, is being able to think, is this useful for me? What can I do on this particular website? And there are quite a lot of different websites out there that can be used in this way. All right, I'm going to put this down for a second. So I'm going to be creating breakout rooms. And what I'd like you to do, I'm going to send a link in the chat. Sorry. That you have to look at the dictionary. There's a good question here. What level or age group would be appropriate for students to use this website? It really depends on the text that you want them to read. It has to be a web page. I mean, you can have a blog as a teacher, and you can write your own text on your own blog and give them the link, and they can use that Lingro site to read it. But bear in mind, you want to think about the language of the dictionary. So if they're reading from an English dictionary, they need some skills. Okay, so it's not for young primary learners, that one, but it would be appropriate for high school students, university students, I think. Okay. It's just one example that I'm giving you. I'm putting another link in the chat now, which is for Google Docs. On Google Docs, please don't write anything in the doc yet. Just have a look if you want, open it up and see. There's a slideshow. And for each slide, there's a box where you can write down what you would do with a particular website. And each slide, once you get past the title slide, has a little blue box in the upper right saying BOR and then a number, like BOR1, BOR2. That's going to be where you're going to work in breakout rooms. So I'm going to show you the task. what I'd like you to do, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms in a moment. And I want you to notice what room number you got sent to. So if you go to breakout room 5 with your friends, you're going to work on BOR 5, slide 5. Okay. I would like you just to discuss, first of all, in your group, you'll have some time. Think about the different apps and websites, things that you think are really useful for learning English. It can be for whatever level of English that you're teaching, whatever you think is useful or your students think is useful. Okay. And then in your group, decide on one of them that you want to focus on. One person can be the kind of secretary or scribe and write on the Google slide the things that you can do with that website or app. And when we're done, because there's quite a few of us in the room tonight, you will have a little kind of takeaway handout of apps or websites that you think are useful. And of course, you've got the link, so you're very welcome to go back and add another one. Make sense? Okay, so I'm going to organize the breakout rooms. And I do it more comfortably when I'm down here. In fact, I cannot, I'm not seeing the breakout room icon. Aydan, Hocam, can you help with that?
I'm checking. Yeah, where are the breakout rooms? Okay.
They might not be enabled. Ooh. We can do this because it's only 30 people, so I'm just going to do this kind of by hand. All right. So I'll try to read out names in breakout room 1, and I'm just going across my screen. All right. So Ayça Bayram, Yulia Gamza, Şebnem Uzun, and Sherif Atay. You're going to work in room 1. So how are we going to do this without breakout rooms though? Everyone will be talking.
I'm so sorry. Guys, is there anyone who knows how to use breakout rooms? I do not have any buttons or anything here that I can enable.
I think we would probably have to close the room and close the meeting and start the meeting again.
Hi, Aydan Hocam. You need to set up and activate into the settings part in the main session of the Zoom. You need to go to the settings and activate breakout rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Thank you, Hocam.
In the Zoom account, right?
Yes. Into the settings part in the settings section.
Okay, I will try to do that now.
Yeah, I don't know whether it works in the middle of a meeting or
I
not.
don't think so. Okay, in progress. It says edit.
If you just allow someone to, as a host, just a second, we can do it if you want. Or Fatma Hocam can do it. Just let her to be the host and she can arrange most probably in the middle of the Fatma Hocam, do you agree with me?
Yeah, Hocam, but it is not, it is not enabled now. I can't do it and no one can do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, because they haven't let us to do it or they haven't arranged it earlier, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not available.
Well,
and we need to close this session and reopen a new session.
Okay.
Yes, start a new session, yeah.
Okay.
Once I don't know, just make it available into the settings part.
Okay.
It's not available.
We are not going to do that. I went to the main page. There is nothing that I can do right now because it says the session is in progress. So I need to close it and start a new one, as Fatma Hoca has just said.
Okay, I have an idea. In that case, I'm just going to go to the Google Slides. There's only 29 or 30 people here, and I'm pretty sure that I created enough pretty much for everybody. Just a second. Let me pull up the Google slide. You guys can see it, right?
not yet.
So sorry, I mean, if you go to the link that I put in the chat, you can see
Okay.
the slideshow, right? Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate. All right, I think we'll just have to have a little bit of pandemonium and chaos. That you go to a slide, pick your own slide. Perhaps I need to allocate them. That might be easier. So Aicha, Bayram, you can be slide 1. Yulia, you can be slide 2. Shebnem, you're slide 3, the one that says BOR 3. Sherifatai, 4. Elif Atalı, 5. Pelin Kayahan, 6. Defne Akıncı Midas, 7. Mark Demirtan is 8. Fatma Tokoz Göztepe, 9. Handan Aslı Fidan, 10. Kubra Kıraç, 11. And now people are moving around. Ali Kılınç, 12. Hannah, 13. Sümeyra Geyik, 14. Elif Bergin Kaya, 15. Esra Önder, 16. Mert, 17. Azra, 18. BM, 19. Aisha Melika 1920. Selman, 21. Murat Yüksel, 22. M. Saim, 23. And then you have your own slide. So I'm sorry, we can't quite do breakout rooms, but if you go to your slide number, you will be able to put some notes in your slide. So I'd like you to think of, I had asked you to come prepared with one URL or one app that you think is really useful for language learning, especially for something that students can do on their own or with a friend. And I'd like you to put the name of your URL there and maybe give some examples of what you can do there to improve your English. If you're on a mobile and you can't do it, okay.
I was just going to say some people are writing that they're on a mobile and they cannot do that.
Yes, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes just to start the idea. And if necessary, you will be able to do those things later. Azra, if you scroll through the slides, it looks just like a PowerPoint. On the upper right-hand corner, it says BOR in a blue box. And you'll find number 18. Great. I'm so glad you found it, Azra. That's super. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to put some notes there. And I'm sharing my screen. I love using Google Slides this way because I can watch everybody working. So when I'm working with students online and I give them Google Slides, I can see that everyone is on the slide they should be. I can see that people are writing. And if you can't write because you're on a mobile, it's okay. So Pelin says she can't find the 6th board. Is that correct? Just try refreshing your screen, Pelin Hanım, once. That might work. You may have a lot of tabs open.
Sorry, I was writing on somebody else's board, so I'm stuck in 5th board, I think.
Okay, are you writing on the 5th one?
Yes, but somebody warned me.
Yeah, it was me because 5th
Okay.
is mine.
Okay.
You
Sorry.
can just copy paste it and cut it and put it into number 6 or swap.
I couldn't swap to number 6, but I will try again.
Okay, let me just suggest if Elif Hanım is okay with number 6, can you do it in 6 instead?
I have already written some
again.
part, but the sixth one is empty right now. I can copy and paste.
Yes, if you could do that, because I think Pelin Hanım is having a technical issue there.
Can I write on your board, Elif Hanım? Okay.
Sure, sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love technology. There's absolutely always something unexpected that happens in a session with technology. So it's actually quite fun to have this happening because I was not expecting it. So it's great. I'll just give another 2 or 3 minutes just so that people who can't write because they're on a mobile, thank you, Yulia, don't get, frustrated. And it's perfectly okay if you don't have anything that you want to share on the site, it's perfectly all right. It's quite okay, Mark Hoja. So you guys can see my screen as well, right? If possibly, depending on what kind of a device you're on, you can see that people are writing, which I think is really, really fun. And you can watch everybody writing all at the same time on Google Slides. I know Google Docs and using it like a Word document is very popular, but actually I really enjoy slides because of this feature. It's just, I think it keeps the students on track because they know the teacher is watching. So just for fun, I'm going to show you a couple of the different options here. There are some really nice ideas. So I also use readwriteworks.org. I'll just make it an active link. I think it's a really, really nice website. And yes, students can do a lot of different things there. It is a little bit higher level in the sense that it's designed not for English language learners per se, but it's designed for students in America in school. So for people who have English as a mother tongue, but I have used many of their materials in my ELT classes as well. So that's a really nice one. Thank you. And this one I don't know, Perusall. That's very interesting. An app. Wow, very cool. That sounds lovely. Yeah. So we could write a list of statements. Okay, so I can read with my friends. I can check the unknown words before I come to class. I can write a list of statements like that. Wonderful. I'm going to check that one out. It's one I don't know. Yes, lyrics learning. Wonderful. Yes. So it's nice to have a paragraph here because we're teachers talking to each other, but with students, I would get them to write that list of sentences. I can read the lyrics to my favorite songs. I can read the lyrics and listen to music at the same time. I can sing my favorite songs with the lyrics. I would get them to make sort of I can statements with it all the way through. Wonderful. I'm going to go back to full screen now. All right. This document will be around. So you're very welcome to go there later and add more information and share more websites. And since everyone has come here on the session, I think you deserve to get some kind of a handout. This is your handout. This is your collaborative handout. And I will add 1 or 2 other sites related to things that are missing later on that I think are not there. Sometimes people only put things like Quizlet or quiz kind of test generating things. And I'm not such a huge fan of them. I mean, I use them, but there's testing and testing and testing, and it doesn't really help at the end of the day with speaking English, I think. That's just my opinion. So is it possible that you could get your students to evaluate apps or websites and think about how they could use them to learn English? And is it possible that you could get your students to set goals or to evaluate a list of goals that you generate and pick one to try it? I think that's the kind of thing that we need to do to be able to help them to develop some learner autonomy. So I'll just go back and show you again. Sorry, I'm going to go back. Yeah. I think if we generate them as lists of I can statements, it's easier for students to understand, easier for them to write. Otherwise, they will copy paste off the internet a description of the app or the website. You don't really want that. And this way we get them to think about how it actually helps them with their English. And then we help them with the idea of goals. I think it's really important to put numbers in there. How many words, how many articles, how many times a week, and for how long. Otherwise, they write very vague goals, and that's not so effective. And I hope you find that that's a worthwhile idea. So now, having had that interesting experience without breakout rooms, I'm just going to move on now, okay? So I think autonomy is something we have to really kind of focus on. And for me, this period of kind of sometimes face-to-face, sometimes online, blended learning, it's just been very messy this last year. I think giving students the tools to be autonomous means that when we do go online, it's not, I don't know, they're not quite so dependent on me doing everything for them. They already have an idea about how to handle their own learning. This is helping them to grow up and become more mature. And even actually quite small children can set little tiny goals, I would say. So for me, one of the things I'm taking forward into my practice in summer school and then next year is more focus on developing autonomy than I had in the past. The other thing I think that has terrific potential is mobile learning. Okay, so by mobile learning, I mean anything using a phone, or if people are walking around with a tablet, almost everybody has a phone. I wonder how much mobile learning you're already using in your own classes, or whether it's been possible to integrate that. I think there are some good reasons for doing it. And there's some activities that work really well when we include mobile devices, but there are also some restrictions and problems. So let's just look at the possibilities first. I would say that the thing I like best about mobile learning is it gives everybody a chance to create something. So instead of having a course book that you have to go to a store and buy, or the teacher puts in front of the students who have a telephone, and almost everyone has a phone, suddenly have access to tools where they can create things. They can take photographs, they can record audio, they can record video, they can make combinations of these things with some apps, okay? So they can add a multimedia dimension. When we give students a flat paper course book, I mean, I love reading, I'm a reader, but I know that a lot of young people do not read as much, and they don't like a flat paper book anymore because they spend all their time clicking on things and watching videos pop up and listening to audio. Okay, they like this multimedia world. And I think we need to find a way to bring those things that they enjoy into a language classroom, or into any classroom for that matter. So the idea that we can get students to create what are called artifacts, so things for learning, is just fantastic. Yeah. We can also get them to personalize their own learning because it's their own phone. So they can decide which app they prefer. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 different apps that do the same thing, or almost the same thing. So they will choose, and they can set their own goals and decide exactly how they want to use them. You can add a social dimension. Again, we have to be really careful about these kind of things, depending on the age group of your students and other considerations. We don't want people getting horrible, messages from people who are being bullied. So we do have to be a little bit careful, but it can add a social dimension if we're very careful. All right, so if you have the right group of learners, it might be possible to have a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group where you're sharing information and you're very specific about the kind of information that is shared. It's only language learning information, for example. That might be possible. I think another whole area that we can focus on is how we can develop planning skills, because I find my students really lack that. You know, if they have to write an essay or a paragraph, you know, they just sit there and put the words on the paper without really thinking. They might not do much brainstorming. They might not think about an outline even in their head of how this piece of writing is going to develop. Or they might not be able to manage their, I don't know, manage an interview or a role play very well. They might just launch into it without thinking about what they're going to say. So it is possible to develop planning skills using mobile devices. And that's something I find very interesting. And we have an opportunity to bring in real world text, of course, because they have internet access. So Google searches and online dictionaries and news stories and all kinds of other things on the internet. It's all there on our phones. Now, of course, there are some tricky points about using mobile learning because your students may not be able to do that in class, right? It's possible that your school has a restriction and students are not allowed to bring phones into the classroom. Yeah, I would argue that maybe it's possible to convince the principal of the school or the director that you could have a, you know, one day a month or where you bring mobile devices in order to use them in the lesson. So I don't know, the first Friday of every month, it's mobile learning day, and teachers can use mobile phones in class and students are encouraged to bring their devices on that day. And the phones are used at specific times for learning purposes. But of course, there are difficulties with phones too, right? People come with different models. And as a teacher, I can't understand every single phone model. It's just not possible, right? There may be issues with privacy as well. There are some students who maybe don't have a phone or are reluctant to use their personal data, which is also understandable, I think. Yeah, for learning in the classroom, it may be a financial concern too. So we have to be a bit sensitive about using it, but I think there are some options for bringing in a little bit of mobile learning. All right, so I think, again, raising awareness is the place to start. And in the same way we looked at like a website and what you can do with it, I would consider brainstorming what you can do with the device that would help you learn English. So what, you know, you can put all these ideas up on the board or on a whiteboard or on a physical board if you're in a classroom. So we can record audio, record video, take a photo, read a document, scan a QR code, look up a word, take a screenshot. There are many other things that we could do with a mobile phone or a mobile device, which might help us to learn. Yeah. Or we could ask the students if they've ever used their phones like this for learning. Yeah. That would be interesting because they might not be doing it at all. Now we could actually try using the phone. I should say, in terms of raising awareness, you know, having looked at something like recording audio, maybe we would sit and discuss, how do you record audio on your phone? Okay, because people have different phones, they have different ways of doing it. Maybe they could share with their classmates how they do it, which apps they use and why they use that particular app. So students who don't know about how to record audio would maybe find out. Maybe their phone also has that capacity. So you could spend some time in class where students teach each other how to do these things. Or share a website where they can learn to do these things. I think it's fun to use the phones directly, you know, actually describe the process in English of how you set up a particular app or how you use it and what it can do and why you would want to use it. You can do things with the emojis, for example. You can write stories and dialogues with emojis. I wonder if you've already tried some of those things. I think being able to take photos and screenshots is a wonderful way of bringing the outside world into school, in a sense, and making a connection between what you're doing in the classroom and what you're doing outside. So I think it's really fun to get students to take a photograph of a meal that they're eating. You know, so tomorrow's homework for Monday is take a picture of one of the meals that you're going to eat at the weekend. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, it doesn't matter. Just take a picture of the plate and the things you're eating and drinking and bring it to class on Monday, and we're going to talk about food. So you're not using the photographs in the course book, which, you know, they might be very nice, but they also may have nothing to do with the culture or the students' kind of tastes and preferences. I think it's much more fun if you can share what you like, or what your mother cooks really well, or something like that. And that is usually a very popular activity. So we can use the photo idea and the screenshot idea to generate artifacts and materials that students can talk about, write about, share, compare, contrast, analyze, persuade. Okay, if I take a picture of a famous person who I admire very much, and maybe you don't know that person very well, I can describe that person. I can explain why I think they're somebody with admirable qualities, and I can try to persuade you to be interested and go and look that person up after class. Could be a persuasive task. The photos just lend themselves to all kinds of stuff. And since students have phones, I think it's great to use them. Another way we can use mobile phones is this idea of planning, rehearsing. I'll let you read the list yourself. So if I'm a language learner, I can spend some time getting ready for a kind of public performance, but maybe I'm going to make a presentation, okay? Or I'm going to act out a role play with my friends or something. I can get students to try to rehearse using their phone, recording themselves, either doing it individually or in a small group, all the students recording, and then listening to it. That's always kind of hard, right? Listening to our own voices. Maybe analyzing what we think went well and places where we think we could add in a little bit of extra oomph. Okay, and that's a way of getting ready for a proper performance. So we were doing this kind of thing with IELTS teachers recently. And one idea we all had was a way of getting students to introduce themselves. They could practice introducing themselves and talking about themselves for a minute. Okay, recording either audio or video. We could upload all those things to a Google Drive folder. Okay, I can easily embed them into slides. I can make a slide presentation with the video on each slide so that students can then go and I can allocate partners. They can listen to each other's and they can make some suggestions. Specifically, we could ask them to think about the vocabulary that's used. Are you using very simple vocabulary or a lot of repetition of words? Are there any opportunities for saying something a little bit more sophisticated in your introduction? And the students can give each other feedback about that, for example. So I think the idea of getting students to practice, rehearse, prepare, it's related to the whole idea of setting goals for themselves, of being more aware. It's all about the metacognition, thinking about their own learning. And that's where I think a teacher really has to be there and help, because students will not necessarily learn that on their own. Okay, I'll put the link down in the corner. It's a very nice British Council kind of downloadable guide about mobile learning. And I think it's a great little diagram that they've got, which I will not talk about for a long time. I'm looking at the clock. But basically for mobile learning, you've got the teacher wisdom. Okay, the teacher is the person who knows how to set up tasks and how to organize things for their students. And then you've got the device features, okay, where they can create artifacts and use the different features on their phones. We have to think about that. We have to think about where the learners are. They're what they call learner mobilities. So we can think about the age of the learners, what they do in their free time, what they're interested in, and how they might be able to use their phones. And then we can think about the language dynamics and which aspects of language we can pull up and use with mobile devices. I think it's a very rich area. I'm wondering what mobile learning activities you have used, if any, and if they were successful or not. And have you tried to use mobile learning for reflection or rehearsal? I like the idea of the metacognitive side there. And are there any mobile learning activities you would like to try? I'm curious. Because we don't have an option for breakout rooms, I'm just going to put us all in gallery mode and ask if anyone would like to answer that question. But I can really only give you, like 2 minutes. We can't have a very long answer because of time. Is that okay? So I'm curious about your experience of using mobile learning or wanting to do something in the future. Is there something you would like to try that you're curious about? You're welcome to unmute yourself. Has anyone tried using mobile devices? Yes, Yulia?
We have been practicing different platforms like WhatsApp, for example, and Telegram as well. So on Telegram, I love the option that you can create polls, let's say, and you can also use a quiz bot. So that's one of my favorite options for Telegram. And for WhatsApp, just the simplest activity that I ask the students to do, because we have fully online education now with the students, and I have university students. And they are different levels, just to practice their group collaboration, let's say, somehow. And let's say the reality of the Dominican Republic is also that the internet connection is not so stable and the speed is not so high. So we have to use sometimes very simple activities, let's say. So they just used WhatsApp, to create a kind of conversation. They used audio messages to send to each other back and forth, and it was a kind of dialogue like this. And then they sent to me the whole recording, and I had a kind of conversation to listen to.
Great. Yes, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I agree. WhatsApp and Telegram have really a lot of potential, especially in places where there's an issue with bandwidth. I've used Telegram pretty successfully with large groups, up to 50, 60 people in a group. It gets a bit chaotic, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun to do that. The advantage of Telegram is that if you join the group later, you can see all the earlier messages in the group. Whereas if you join a WhatsApp group, you don't see anything from before you joined. That's the only real difference I could kind of find. Yeah, Yulia?
And then there is one more great option of Telegram that I love. Just you can schedule messages. For example, I plan my lesson today and I plan for the next week. I can plan every kind of message and schedule that to appear on Telegram at exact time. And this is fabulous. Just you don't have to worry that, oh, I have to remember to post this or post that. And this is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. You can ask a different question every day. You can write all the questions in advance for a whole week and they will just be automatically sent. So it's not always possible with every kind of student to use these kind of social media type tools, but I think that there's great potential. And I know lots of people around the world are using them. So those are good examples, Julia, definitely. Yeah. I think it's wonderful for students to be able to bring the outside world to class. Okay, so by getting them to take a picture, upload it to a folder on Google Drive for me, and then I can see them, and then I can share them when we're in a class, and we can talk about them, or we can do something, we can connect them in some way. I think that's a lot of fun. Yes, and Hannah says in the chat that she uses Poll Everywhere as a warm-up activity or an exit ticket. Yes, you can do that on Poll Everywhere. There are lots of different tools, and it's great to have an exit ticket or a warm-up activity there. Yes. And Kahoot Live is a lot of fun too. Yes, for multiple choice type questions. Absolutely. I love Padlet as well. Padlet lets you upload pictures, images, audio, video, everything. So it's really a multi-purpose tool. Fantastic. Yeah. Good. Any other comments or questions? You're welcome to unmute yourselves. We're happy to hear your voices. So I'm going to be slowly kind of wrapping up otherwise.
Fatma,
May I take?
I have usually used Vokaru, Kahoot, and Mentimeter. Fatma, would you like to explain that yourself? And then Handan Hoca has a remark as well.
Yeah, Jan.
Hey everyone.
I usually use Wakuru for giving feedback to students. And by the way, I'm teaching university students English language teaching in the English language teaching department, and I couldn't use too much mobile learning tools, but I've used Web 2.0 tools most of the time. And Wakuru is one of the best tools and application to give feedback and to give reflection on the teacher's micro teaching. I mean, when they teach, when they complete their micro teaching, and Kahoot is the best way to have fun and learning with students. And Mentimeter is another tool that I have commonly used it. And it's a great way to get the reflection and to ask students question and get it their feedback over the lesson.
Thank you very much, Fatma. Yes, I mean, Wakuru is an audio recording website. There are a lot of tools for audio recording. There's also some, if you use Chrome as a browser, later I can maybe post that somewhere on that Google Doc. There are some things you can add in the browser, which will also let you give feedback, like on web pages. So the students also have that in sort of activated on their accounts, on Chrome. And if you use Google Docs or Google Slides, you will be able to get all the students to put audio comments directly on the slides. It's actually really easy to do that. That's another option. So there are a lot of options for audio, and I think everything we do with audio is great. Yes, 1 second, Pelin, I'll get to you. Kahoot, and there's other options for Kahoot. I like quizzes a lot. There's different versions of quiz programs that you can use online, definitely. And Mentimeter will do quite a lot of different kinds of questions. I like their word cloud aspect quite a bit. It's nice. Jamboard has wonderful options for teachers. If it's one you're not used to, please look it up. There are fantastic templates that you can get for free on the internet, because lots of teachers have been using Jamboard. It's basically something like a Google slide formation, but it's a horizontal way of doing it. And students can put sticky notes there and make comments. You can do quite sophisticated things with Jamboard if you prepare the boards in advance. And Nearpod and WordWall, yes, these are all kind of things that the teacher is using a lot. I'm thinking especially about the students using it. Yes, talk and comment extension, that's the one I meant, Yulia. Thank you for Chrome. Absolutely, that works really well. WordWall, Wordsmith, okay. So I'm especially interested in the ones that the students can use themselves, okay, and bring me the stuff in class. Why should I work so hard? Yeah. Okay, so things like, Kahoot, it's quizzes, it's great. I made a great quizzes, everybody loved it, but it took me like 2 hours. I mean, I don't have 2 hours every day to make a material for one class, right? I have to be a little bit practical. So I think it's important that we hand the responsibility to the students to do something. And I get a lot more when they take a picture of their breakfast and bring it to class. That's really quick and easy for them. And I can get a lot of language learning and discussion out of that. Okay, so you got to think carefully and a little bit intentionally, right? I like the word intentional. How much time is it going to take you to prepare those materials? Can you use them again? Or is it a one-off? So be careful, don't wear yourselves out. Okay, I think Pelin had her hand up first, if that's okay, and then I'll come to you, Handan.
Okay, yes, thank you. Firstly, I'm a student of Aydan Hocam from the 2005 alumni, and I'm a public secondary school teacher now. I mostly use these tools for creating worksheets. For example, creating mind maps. Like there are free tool or useful tools like MindMaster and Go Concur, Mind Map. You can teach vocabulary mostly. I can make flashcards. You can create flashcards there.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? I think it's great. I think it's great if a teacher, I always try to give one example, okay? So yeah, I always learn how to use the tool and I make one example for the students. Like I showed you that Lingro site and I made a Google form. The next job is it's over to you guys. So then I let you make a copy of my Lingro Google form and you make it for your own website. You understand? So if you're making one mind map, that's fine. But if you're always making the mind maps, you're doing a lot of the work for the students. And I would argue that
not always mind maps.
go with them.
For example, there is a tool like called Canva. I think you all you know that. You can make invitation cards, and also you can use it as an educational tool. You can make videos and create worksheets, and also everything, whatever you want. So it is very efficient. This tool is very so efficient.
These are wonderful tools for the teacher, but I'm trying to focus on mobile learning from the point of view of the students doing the work. It's the students who need to learn English. So I'm trying to throw the responsibility at them. I use all of the tools that you're mentioning, you guys are mentioning on chat. I've used all of them many times. But
there are games, there are lovely games, educational, partly educational. Sometimes there are some issues like winning and class games. There are class games like Kahoot, as friends mentioned. They show off themselves on the podium. They gain points, so it makes them happy. The more points they get.
I have to stop you there, Pelin, because we can talk all night about these wonderful websites. I completely agree; they're great websites. But my focus tonight in my session is about developing learner autonomy, okay, and getting the students to use the mobile apps themselves without me having to organize everything all the time. Okay, so I totally agree with all the websites you're mentioning. I use all of them, but I also throw the ball at the kids. Okay, Handan had her hand up. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this great opportunity, first of all. And what I would like to say is, you can just throw the ball to your students by using the teacher apps. What I do is use Kahoot, but I let them prepare their own Kahoot games. And since they're so competitive and so they like reacting and challenging each other, I just, teach some, it can be grammar, structure, it can be just vocabulary in other ways. They create their own code games and they share the links and they just mock each other if they cannot answer the questions. Or wordsmith, let's come to wordsmith. They just put the words they want to learn, and they can also, wordsmith allows students to create their own library and dictionary. So it can be beginners, advanced, etc. They first have to know and learn the word family and whatever, and know which one to use as the ones we use in the class. So they're going to create their own quizzes and share the link, and the students are going to do the exercise. Also, Jamboard.
Last comment, because I have to move on to other people. Last comment.
Okay. So the last comment is Jamboard. Because Jamboard is used with Google Documents, you just share the link, and if they cannot reach the internet at that moment, they can just write whenever they want, because it's all recorded there, so that the teacher can check their answers, and the students later on check their answers. So they work really well. So the thing I want to say last about it, not all the tools are for the teachers. You let your students use them and use for your own benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think we need to try to get them to create their own content too, as much as possible. Thank you, Handan Hanım. Mark Hoca.
Hi, Kristina. Kristina, I think what I do with my own students, and I teach them at all different levels, is I don't give them any particular names, or I don't advertise anyone's products. Is they should be trying things, different applications all the time. So what works today or this week might not work next month. So look, learning is always challenging. So they should be just trying different things all the time. Don't worry about a particular application's name or website. They just need to try different things all the time. They need to experiment with what works today or this week, and then just move along and see what happens maybe in a month's time, and try something different, perhaps.
That's a very good point. I think that's a very good point. We have to remember that things change, they disappear, they become paid for, they're not free anymore. Things like that happen. I think it's great to give students a kind of category to work with at the beginning. Okay, so I want you guys to be able to record your own audio. I want you to record your voice. So how are we going to do that? And I might give them a couple of things that I know, and I might ask them, how can you do that with the devices that you've got? So, and then they can have a look and they can see, because people have different devices, different types of operating systems, and maybe they don't want to do it on their phone. Maybe they want to do it on a laptop instead. They don't want the completely mobile idea. So there are many options, right? And then I would be discussing that with them. But you have to consider the age of the learners as well. There was a comment here about younger learners. And with younger learners, you might need to be much more specific at the beginning and really hold their hands with that one. Okay, and then you might be picking a website so mom and dad can be, involved and they can see what you're doing. And it's not quite as, it's a bit iffy with younger learners and mobile learning. I would be careful with that one. I'm thinking more about students who can take responsibility and not get into trouble. Okay. And I think we need to think about all the different skills. So it's not only grammar, it's not only vocabulary, because our students often think that that's what they have to do to learn English. Just lots of grammar, lots of vocabulary, and take lots of tests. And it has some use, but they need other stuff as well. They need a more varied diet. It would be like eating only chicken all the time. Chicken, I'm sure, is healthy in certain doses, but you wouldn't be healthy if you only ate chicken, right? Or oranges or carrots or anything else. So we want some kind of things here. There's some really nice comments about, one of the fallacies of modern constructivism is trying to make students completely autonomous. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest complete autonomy. That would also be out of control, because we have a syllabus and we have a program and we want to be efficient. I want to be efficient and I want my students to be efficient. So I don't want them going down some path which is really not going to take them in the right direction at the end. I have to use my intelligence as a teacher to guide them as well. So just how much guidance you would have to give. For me, I start with one thing, something like Lingro at a university level. This is a website we're going to try. We're going to use it this week, and I set the homework. And the next week, I give them 2 choices. And the following week, maybe I give them 4 choices, pick one. I gradually, bit by bit, I show them that they can take some responsibility and make a decision for themselves. And I do that in all of my teaching. So if we're going to, we did a page in the workbook, we did a page in class from the course book, and there's a workbook, and there's 6 exercises. I will tell my students, okay, everybody needs to do exercise a term. I'm making this up, 2 and 4. Okay, and after that, you have to make a decision, because 3 is about vocabulary, 5 is about the grammar. You decide. Either do the vocabulary or the grammar. You can do both, but you don't have to. Okay, and then they have a choice. They have to do something, the 2 I want, and they have a choice for the other one. Yeah, so just gradually give them the idea of making a commitment and a promise that I will do something. They're not used to it, the kids. All right. So yes, it's going to be some great things in the chat to pull up later and turn into kind of a worksheet or a handout. It's wonderful. Aydan Hoca, would you like to step in and ask any other questions that we've missed?
Isra Hoca was raising her hand. I don't know
Yes.
whether, yes.
Yes, I apologize. Please go ahead.
No problem. Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear teachers. I'm a bit excited, so I'm sorry if I have mistakes, if I may. In my lessons, by the way, I'm a secondary school teacher, and I'm newly beginner teacher. It's just 2 years. So in my online lessons, I will suggest to my students that they should use a dictionary as Cambridge or Oxford University dictionaries instead of Turing, if you know that. And I think they should get used to use these dictionaries, because they should see example sentences, not only the words itself. And in these dictionaries, they can listen to the words pronunciations. And when they see the sentences, they become worried about it, and they get to move on between sentences, because when they click on the words, they can also see the other words' meanings and the other examples. So I would suggest them to use it, and I make a screen sharing, and I try to teach them how to use these dictionaries.
Yes, good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes, thank
Esra
you very
Hocam.
much.
Murat
Yes.
Yüksel Hocam also has a suggestion for young learners. Murat Hocam, would you like to explain that yourself?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, crystal clear, you say, right?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Okay, I'm teaching both the secondary, actually the middle school, and also at Ankara University Tömer Teaching Center for the young adults and adults. And for my fifth graders, for example, we are teaching 13 hours a week English. For that reason, I'm giving them listening and speaking classes. And normally I have some activities using the mobile phone, such as, for example, for the simple present tense, I assign them Powtoon application. Have you ever heard of that application, guys? Okay, I teach them how to use it and let them prepare the animations, and then they do their daily activities in an animation way, you know, so that they like it. They love it actually. And I also run a live stream Kahoot, and we play every time, even with the adults. They love it, as you guys have been talking about. And the other one is I also use mobile phone for other purposes, just like using its camera. For example, we are at the moment, we are teaching them buzzword, you know, they in Turkey, they try to say born, but they say burn, you know, like where were you born and when were you born. I taught them, and then I told them to go teach your parents, and then while you guys doing this, shoot a video and send it to me so that I'm going to evaluate your effort. And their parents, their grandparents, they taught them where were you born and when were you born. And this week and next week we will continue watching them. And every student makes like 30 seconds or 1 minute videos, and they bring it down to the Zoom live stream, because I've been doing this for 4 years. It was in our class activity, but we, you know, adaptized it to live stream, live classes. So I have normally using, whenever I can do, I also use the quizzes and Story Jumper. We created an online audiobook together with my students. They started to write, they started to vocalize, and we recorded. And that's what I've been doing.
Wonderful.
Right.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Poor parents and
Sorry
poor
about that.
grandparents. Can you imagine being tortured
But
like
you gotta
that?
watch them. If I was on my mobile, if I was on my PC, it doesn't work right now. I would like to share one video that my students are teaching them, and they are speaking. They're asking each other, where were you born? When were it is really great fun for
Yeah.
all of us.
I
And
can
I told them, then
imagine.
this will be this will be a memory for you guys when you grow up. You will
Yeah.
have a memory recorded, and you also have a chance to save it.
Yeah.
And they love it.
Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Well,
You're welcome.
thank you very much. I mean, excellent ideas. And there are so many remarks here. Handan Hoca has mentioned some tools here, but I believe we are past the time limit. So, you know what? I can send you the chat box if you're interested, Kristina. And,
Yes, I'm just saving the chat right now. It's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I've just
Okay,
saved it.
great,
I've
great.
just saved it, so it's fine.
Just one thing that I would like to maybe ask at the same time, but I would like to comment on this. Now, people keep saying that keeping notes on digital devices is very practical. I'm old school. I'm just going to suggest one thing. If they are taking notes on digital device once, please ask them to write something using handwriting, you know, traditional way, at least twice or 3 times. Because I don't know what Kristina is going to say about this, because I personally believe, and psychological research backs this up, that writing makes learning better.
Yes.
So,
That's
Kristina, is
what
there
I've
anything that you would like to add on to that?
I would. I'm a big fan. I think it's nice to have the mobile phone if you're on the bus and you wanted to quickly check something, you want to revise your vocabulary when you're on the bus. I understand that. But I think for writing is really good for your brain. And like mind maps, I'm a huge fan of mind maps and graphic organizers. I show the students the idea and make the first one. Maybe we make the second one together. And after that, I get them to do that work. They need to understand the concept of making a graphic organizer, what the point of it is. Otherwise, they don't really get the benefit. So they will draw it by hand. And they can take a photo of that and they can send it to.
Yeah.
So the mobile device is still very useful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's very nice for them to have something written down.
Okay.
Definitely. I would agree. I have put up my my Hotmail address there. Okay. I use that more for contacting people. It's the same thing for Gmail. It's Kristina12smith@gmail. If you wanted to share anything on a Google Doc, feel free to just make that a Gmail address. And I'm Kristina123Smith on Facebook. So if you're an old-fashioned person and using Facebook, you can find me. And the Hotmail address is the one I use to register for things. That's the one I use to register for Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. So I think you can probably find me if you really want to. Send me an email or whatever. Okay, if you have any questions, you want to share something, I hope that I've given you some food for thought. I find it's very useful to think really carefully about autonomy and how we can get students to engage with these ideas slowly and steadily with examples like the one I gave you, which has worked pretty well with teenagers and young adults so far. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And I really feel ashamed of myself because I don't know why I have never thought of enabling breakout rooms in my account. So I will definitely do that. See, I have learned one thing, but nobody's perfect. I'm sorry. I'm
okay.
I'm close to perfect, but not perfect.
99.9999999.
And I'm so sorry for causing that inconvenience for you, Kristina. I ruined your activity.
No.
Shame on me. Normally,
No,
moderators are here to make everything easy for you, but I just did the opposite. Sorry for that.
It's quite okay. No, it's fun. It's actually good to have things go wrong in a tech session, and then you have to go.
And you know, you just displayed how creative you can be. So you immediately, you know, it's reflection in action. They call it, I believe. So you immediately came up with a solution. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have you here with us, Kristina. And I personally learned a lot, and I believe all the participants learned a lot from you. Thank you for this wonderful session. Take very good care of yourself and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, dear participants, my dear colleagues, for being here with us. You also keep safe, stay safe, and take good care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.
Yes. Bye-bye. Bye.